Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. Now this card is just a little bit different in that it's a pop-up card. So the front of it is actually fairly plain. It's got the background of the sky and the greenery, the bench, the bird, just sitting here thinking of you, and then the real drama is on the inside. And there is the inside of the card. And I have put the bench in here, the bird, a little squirrel, a cat, and the two pots of greenery, and a sentiment. Of course, your sentiment could say anything. This says just here, sitting here thinking of you, live every moment, laugh every day, love with all your heart. It could be a card of encouragement. You could put happy birthday on the inside. You could put hope you're feeling better on the inside. It could be anything. But this is the one I had, and I kind of liked that idea. So I'm going to show you what it takes to make this card. And the first thing we need, I used a Granny Apple Green card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded here at 4 1/4. Then this piece is, let me see, I've got to get to my notes here. This piece is 8 1/4 by 5 1/4, scored at 4 1/8. This has got to sit just on the inside of here and make our pop-up mechanism. Then we need a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 for our front panel. And then you need just a whole lot of white scrap to cut out your various pieces. And you're cutting out, in this case, 2 birds, 2 benches, 2 squirrels, 2 of these pieces that are the pots. In this case, I used the cat, and also available is a little dog, and I thought we might use him on the second card I'm making here. So lots of die cutting and lots of coloring out. Now on this one, let me tell you a little bit about the stamp sets and the die sets. The stamp set I'm using is Sitting Pretty, and that's the one that has the dog in a 2-step stamping, and we might try to do that 2-step today. It's got the squirrel, and I just colored him in on mine using a blender pen. It's got the bird, and it's got a second stamp for that. It's got a heart. It's got some wonderful sentiments: sitting, thinking, missing you, best friends, and anywhere with you is better than anywhere without you. And there were some lovely things there. You can superimpose a pot, you can color in, stamp these pieces on top. There's all kinds of crazy things you can do with this stamp set. And then I used the die set for this, and there's a die for the squirrel, a die for the pot with the flowers, a die for the dog, a die for the bird. I said the squirrel and the hearts, and this other bench, which I didn't use in this, and then a layout here for some bricks and a pattern, and I did not use that. Then my sentiment came from Sitting Here, which is a similar kind of card, only a swing, and it says just sitting here thinking of you. So I took that from here, and I took the cat from here. And I suppose I could have taken some of these things and fussy cut them out and done some things like that. But since I had the dies for the other, I used the dies for that. The other thing I used were the dies for the Up and Away die set. So this one has lots of parts and pieces, but I used all of the clouds from here, and there are 4 little clouds. And on the front of this one, I just put the clouds down and then brayered my background over it. And on the inside here, I put the actual clouds, and I think I like the brayering technique better, so I'll change that up on this particular one. Okay, so that's all the pieces that we need, and I'm using some blends, and then I'm using my Balmy blue ink and my Pear Pizzaz ink for the front of our card here. So let's just get started. And in order to make this card, I need some scratch paper here. so that I can do my brayering. And I'm going to do my grass first. And I've got my Pear Pizzaz ready here. And I'm going to get some ink on my brayer and start off and go off. And I'm going to put the majority of the ink towards the bottom, a little bit darker on the bottom than the center, because I want the center to be light. So I'll make the top part blue darker at the top so that you make a horizon line that way. And so I'm going to put my grass down here until I'm pretty happy with it, and I think that's plenty. And then I have this cute little stamp from the set that adds little sprigs of grass, and so I thought I would dot a few of those around here. Oops, that one I didn't re-ink. And so a little bit like that. All right, then I am going to brayer the top of my panel here with my Balmy blue. Now this roller is stained from another time using it, but once you wash it off, the staining stays, but it doesn't affect your picking up or laying down of ink. So I'm going to put my blue down here, and I'm going to go over that centerpiece, but that's probably all I'm going to do there, just so that it doesn't have a line on it. But the majority of the brayering I'm going to do here is at the top, and it creates a natural horizon line. And I just realized that I went right over that cloud, so I guess on the front of this one I'm going to add a cloud. So I'll take this one large cloud and we'll put that in place on the front. All right, I have already cut out my pieces. I have my bench for the front, and I have my, oops, I'm getting color on that. May have to turn my cloud, oh, whoops, may have to get a whole new cloud here. With all of the color that's going down on this one, I found it particularly challenging to keep the ink off of my fingers and therefore on my project. So I'd encourage you to keep something close by there to take out anything you don't want down there in the way of color. So I'm just going to put some snail down on the back of my cloud, and I am going to put that into place right there. Then I'm going to put my bench on the front panel here up on dimensionals, and I'm using a couple of the larger ones and then a couple of the minis for the legs. Okay, so this can get put into place right down here. Probably should have done my stamping prior to that, but it'll all work out. So I'm going to take my stamp now that says "Sitting Here Thinking of You," and we'll add that sentiment to the top of my card right over here, just at the top. And so there's my sentiment. Close up my inks. Okay, so now what I've done is I added a little squirrel. I stamped him in soft suede, and I'm going to take my soft suede ink here. Lots of inks on this one too. And I'm just going to get a little bit of color on my blender pen here, and I'm just going to color this little guy in just a little bit, just so he's not quite so white and stark. And then I'm going to use a mini glue dot on the back of the squirrel and put him on the front of the card here. So like right over here. There we go. Oops. These are a little crooked. All right, then I have, let's see, a little bird here. And on this original card, I put the bird in yellow, so I thought I would change that up this time and make my bird blue. So I'm going to do my bird in the dark balmy blue. On the inside and the outside, so I'm going to go ahead and color up both of these. Now you can stamp these in StazOn because it doesn't smear, but I find that Memento works for me almost as well. See, I'm not getting any black discoloration if you really let it dry. And these were stamped a day ago, so they're nice and dry. And so I just used Memento. In fact, I used Memento ink except for the colors. I did the bird in, the squirrel here in soft suede. Okay, so I'm going to add my little bird up here to the top, and I'm going to add that bird with a little bit of Tombow, so that I can get the glue right down here at the bottom and put this bird right where I want it. And so I'm going to stick my bird right here on the top of my bench. And there, the front of my card is pretty well done. Now, let's tackle the inside of the card and making the mechanism. Okay. So for the inside mechanism here, what we're going to do is take a ruler and we are going to measure in 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to put a little tick mark here, and then a 1/2 inch from that we're going to put another tick mark. Okay, so, and then from the other side we're going to do the same thing, 3/4 of an inch, and then a 1/2 inch from that, mark to the inside. Then we're going to do the same thing at 1 7/8 from the outside edge. We're going to put a tick mark, and 1 7/8 on this end, a tick mark. Okay, now on these two end ones, these are the two tabs that will hold our pots up. So they need to be they need to stick out about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put another tick mark here. I'm going to put my card down on my grid paper here, and so that I can get this reasonably straight, I'm going to mark that in 1/2 inch right there, 1/2 inch, and then 1/2 inch on this one. And then for the two center ones, those are going to come out a full inch. So from the fold, 1 full inch, and put a little pencil mark down. And the same thing from this tick mark in 1 inch. And then the last two, 1/2 inch again from the fold line. 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. All right, now we're going to connect these. This one looks a little long to me. Yep, I'm going to put a little mark there. All right, so what we're going to do is just connect these just so that we have a visual aid, and all this will be hid behind the card, so you won't be able to see the pencil marks. So we're going to come across here and connect these pieces. Straight across, and then again here, straight across. So there we go. Those are the pieces that we're going to cut. Now, what we also have to do, and I'm going to use my pick tool to do it, is to cut up these lines here and make some score lines along the top. So let's do our cutting first, and that way we'll be able to see where we're supposed to do our score lines. So we're going to cut up those lines to the first horizontal line there on all of these. And by the way, I suggest that you do this not on the thick whisper white, but on the regular whisper white, because it's just too heavy to easily make the folds that we want. So again, going to cut up to my lines here. These don't have to be perfect. It's just so that they sort of match. Okay, then across the top here, I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to use the stylus end of my pick tool here, and I'm going to put in a score mark. And the same thing across here. Put in a score mark. And one more across here. Now what I'm going to do is turn it over and put score marks on the other side. This side I don't have my pencil marks, but I do have my cut marks. So I'm going to go from one cut mark to the next. Here, it's a little harder to see. In real life, you'll be able to see them pretty clearly. Put your score line across, and the same thing on this other one, and you can measure that one across so that they're even. There we go. All right. Now, since this is the side that has the pencil marks, this is the part we want to punch through. So what we're going to do is, while we have this slightly bent, I'm going to punch through our cuts here and start to get those score lines dealt with that we just made here, so that we're punching through on the right side. Punch through and bend your score line here. It's a little tricky. And down here. Then it should fold along all of those score lines. Then you can match up your card here top to bottom and use your bone folder and really set those score lines in all of those places across here and across here to get your card folded the right way. And there on the inside, you've created the little spots to put all of your elements. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're going to take this and go ahead and put it in here. But before we do that, I'm going to bring back my scratch paper, and I'm going to brayer a sky in here. And this time I'm going to remember to attach my cloud with a little bit of snail here so that I can brayer over the cloud. And in fact, maybe I will put in 2 clouds on this one. One on that side and one over here. Okay, now I'm going to take my Balmy blue here and get some ink on my brayer, and then coming across my whole card base here, I'm going to just brayer in the sky all the way down to the fold marks here. There we go. And I don't think there's any need to put any grass on this side, because on the inside We have so many other things going on that we just won't need it. Okay, so there, I'm going to pull these off, and I should have nice little tufty clouds back there. I do. And a little ink residue, which I'm going to use my glue eraser to remove. There we go. And the inside of our card is all ready to be put together. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and place this card in here. And I'm going to lay down some snail. I don't think we need anything more than snail here, but I'm going to put it down fairly generously because I don't want anything to be moving, and especially across these edges here. Okay, and what we're going to do is set this down on the fold line here with a similar margin on both sides. And put that into place and just close the card up. And when I open it, I should have my perfect setup for my pop-ups. And there we go. All right. Now then, we have a bench to put on this side on the pop-ups. And one of the issues with the bench and this particular pop-up is that it's awfully tall and doesn't really fit. So I just cut the legs down. I cut off, a good 1/4 of an inch, because what I really want is a good enough spot on the back here to really anchor this to the top of the pop-up mechanism here. So I'm going to set some glue along the base here, and I did cut that wide enough so that the entire bottom of the open part of this bench is pretty well going to be covered by the bench legs. And the reason I did that was that way you can place anything else that you want any place along it and it'll look fine. So I'm just going to let that sit and grab a hold there for a second. All right, so my bench is securely on there now. All right, so I know that I have a little bluebird colored for that, and I decided to go ahead and put the dog on this one, and I stamped him in soft suede, and I'm just realizing that I think I want his nose darker. Nice black nose for my dog, and the same thing for the little fingers, if you will, on his paws. And maybe a black touch on his ears. And I'm just using my black marker to get a little bit of that. And then I did use my light gray, I used gray. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I did. Here it is. I used the light smoky slate to give him a little bit of highlight. Now, the next things we're going to do is color in our pots. And for that, I need some Cajun Craze ink, which I have here. And I did that with my blender pen. And I took a little bit of the Cajun Craze ink and I colored in my pot so that it looked like terracotta. Okay, now on the coloring for the greenery here, oftentimes when you're coloring something in and you want a little bit of contrast and it looks like you actually did something and it's not just wrote, I used 3 shades of green. I used the light granny apple, the dark granny apple, and then I used the dark old olive. And the idea behind this is really to color, because if you think about in nature, the way leaves are, there's darker parts and lighter parts, and they're not always the same. And so on something like this, we shouldn't have it be the same either. And so I've taken a little bit of the 3 colors here and interspersed them around, and I'm going to speed this up so it doesn't get to be so tedious to watch here in a second. Soon as I get down the 3 colors so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to take the next one. This is the darker granny apple, and I'm using the thin tip on these, and I'm going to put in a little bit of a darker tone on some of these. And you can see you immediately start to get a little bit of contrast. And one of the things in anything where you're doing coloring, contrast is a wonderful thing. It makes things come alive. So there we've got some of the dark green in there, and then I'm going to switch over to the dark old olive, and I'm going to finish them off in that. Okay, so there we go. Now I had one more bit of stamping to do. I did want to put down some bricks on the inside of the card here. And so I'm going to set that stamp up now and then use my Cajun Craze as long as I've got it out. The big thing about using the Cajun Craze ink is giving it enough time to dry, because once you close your card, if you're not careful, you'll pick it up on your bench here. So you want to give this enough time to dry, and you can lay this down to get your bricks in there. And this doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be a lot of them. And I'm not going to go off the page, obviously, because I put this already on here, but that's something you could stamp before you did this. And what I wanted to do was get the essence of a grounding in here. And then there's still plenty of room on the bottom here to put your sentiment in. So your choice about the order in which you do all of this. Sometimes doing the background and all of this stuff first is good, because then you can give it a second to dry before you start adding your other pieces. Okay, so now we've got our 2 pots that we can put in here to give this some real dimension. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some glue dots because they're so nice and strong. I'm going to put one right at the base and then one right above it so that I get 2 glue dots on my tab here. And there we go. I've got my first pot put in place, and then 2 more glue dots on the bottom of this one. One right on top of the other, and we'll put this pot into place here as well. And there we go. Isn't that fun? Let's see, I had a little bit of this lovely lipstick foil that on this one I cut out and put in place, but I'm very mindful of the fact that that's not available. So I'm going to use dark lovely lipstick and color in my heart here, and just little circular motion, coloring in the whole red heart here on my bench. And then I'll show you how at the end to put on some fine tip glue to make that one shine. Okay, so there we go. We have the red heart put in place. I have my little blue bird to put in place here. And again, I'm going to use a little of my Tombow glue on the bottom of his feet here. Oops. So that I can get him put into the place that I want him there. Right roughly in the same place I did on the front. Now then, we have our little dog, since we put the cat on the other one. I've got my little dog here, and I thought he would be kind of fun to put on here. We just have to decide where. I think I like him better on that side. And with that, I'm just going to put down some glue here on this and set him into place right here in front of the bench. And then I had one more little squirrel. Okay, I found my squirrel. So I'm going to take my blender pen now and go back to my soft suede ink here and pick up just a touch of color and give him a little bit more life. I'm going to rub a little bit of that off so that I'm just getting a little bit on here. And there we go. And that's really all I want to do. And then I think I'm going to pop the squirrel up off of this pot because I've got so many other things right in the middle. So I'm going to use a mini dimensional on that and put that into place. And then I thought as the sentiment for the inside of this one, we would put a happy birthday sentiment to have it be a little bit different. So there's my squirrel. There's my squirrel nice and straight. And then I have my happy birthday here from Best Birds. And I just love the font on this particular one. And we're going to put a happy birthday sentiment up here on the back. And we just have to decide where that happy birthday will look the best. Get some ink on my block there. And whether up in the corner, right down here. I'm thinking right over here looks pretty good. So I'm going to put my happy birthday down. There we go. And there is my inside of my card complete. And now all we have to do is put the outside of our card. Now this is one that it pays to go back over a couple times with your bone folder, but just because there's so many layers by the time you get done, you want to reinforce all of those pieces in there. And then we're going to add some snail to this. And get this piece added on our card. And I just love this because the front of the card is so unassuming. Pretty, mind you, but unassuming. And then you open it up and there's all the drama of the pop-up card. Isn't that lovely? So the things to remember to watch is putting your items in far enough and down here far enough that when you close it, nothing sticks out of either side. There's still plenty of room down here to write your sentiment, but I think it's a lovely little card. I could have put that happy birthday a little bit higher up there, but I think it's just, it came out cute. And I was afraid I wasn't going to like the dog as much as the cat, but I think I do. So there are my cards for today, my project for today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. I do so appreciate it. Missed one this week. I was a bit under the weather, and I had all of my pre-made videos already scheduled, and just caught and had a little flu bug, and I'm happy to be among the living again. So again, thanks for stopping by. And let's see, the prize draw, this is March, so the prize draw is the Wonderful Romance bundle from the catalog for March, and all you have to do to be in the drawing is to put an order in on my website. And then let's see, oh, this is the last month for the join offer. To join Stampin' Up! During this first whole celebration time and through the first quarter here has been $99 for $175 worth of product. Now, many of you order $99 or $120 of product. And I want you to think about the fact that if you became a demonstrator, you'd be getting a 20% discount on everything. And you don't have to do videos. You don't have to do anything else. It's just a matter of, in fact, I have one woman on my team who doesn't even allow herself to be found on the Stampin' Up! Site. She's just doing this as a way to get some discounts for the cards that she makes, and she wants none of the other obligations, and that's just fine. But lots of my customers do order more than $100, and it would be a way quickly to become a demonstrator and get all the perks of being a demonstrator. You get to order material early, there's conventions, there's camaraderie on the team. It's wonderful. So think about it. And my number is always listed below the video. Happy to talk to anybody anytime, at least about whether it makes any sense for you to do this or not. And no obligation, just happy to talk with you. In any case, that's it for me today, and I will be back soon with more cards and more projects. Bye.